No, your eyes do not deceive you on that thumbnail or in the title. It is true. Edge, now known as Adam Copeland, his real name, Adam Copeland, is indeed All Elite. It's been really one of the worst kept secrets, I guess, in all of pro wrestling recently, that Edge, his contract expired with WWE last night. As of today, well, technically, depending on where you are in the world, but as of October 1st, he was a free agent, but his free agency did not last very long because Edge has signed with All Elite Wrestling. He is All Elite. He has officially made his All Elite Wrestling debut in the main event, coming to the aid of Darby Allin, Sting, to fend off the faction of Christian Cage, the TNT champion, Luchasaurus, as well as Christian's newest son in Nick Wayne, who turned on Darby Allin. But the big news is, as I mentioned, that Adam Copeland is indeed All Elite for the first time since 1997, when Edge made his debut in WWE. He is not a WWE superstar. He is signed to another professional wrestling company, and that is AEW. As mentioned, it was realistically, and we're going to get into all of the matches, we're going to get into everything as we go through here, but it was, something was always going to be afoot. The moment that we knew that the main event of WrestleDream was going to be for the TNT Championship, a 2 out of 3 falls bout between Darby Allin and Christian Cage. No disrespect to either, but considering some of the other matches on the card, you said to yourself, something has to happen. Something big must happen. They must have something big planned. At the very least, a title change, because if not, it's going to be flat. Now, that's not to say the match didn't deliver, because it absolutely did. Christian Cage versus Darby Allin was an absolute humper. It was a fantastic main event. The crowd were in it. It was violent. It was gruesome. It was everything you're looking for in a main event. But it wasn't enough, because people were saying, why is this match going on last? I mean, it's WrestleDream. And the dream match on the show was Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. And that match did deliver. We'll get into the matches. But you knew something was going to happen. And when you see Nick Wayne turn on Darby Allin, you say, well, that's not enough. That's not enough to put this match in the main event. And then you see Sting come out, and you think, right, okay, they're going to do some kind of situation where, again, the odds are against them. The numbers are against them. So as Sting's coming out, he's clearing house. Out comes Luchasaurus. Count them, 3 versus 2. It's Christian Cage. It's Luchasaurus. It's Nick Wayne. It's Sting, and it's Darby Allin. They need support. And just as it looks like Christian Cage is about to hit Sting with a concerto, the lights go out. We see this is your featured presentation for the evening. You see a mysterious person driving a car all the way up to the Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, Washington. You see a mysterious person get out of the car, and then, and we spoke about this earlier on, the reports are out there, you hear, you think you know me. Now, it's not the same you think you know me from WWE, because it can't be the same you think you know me from WWE, because WWE owns the rights to that part of the song. That originated when Edge made his debut all the way back in the late 90s for WWE, so they had to re-record that. But what WWE doesn't own the rights to is Metalingus by Alter Bridge, because it appeared on their album. So because of that, immediately you hear the very familiar theme of Metalingus. On this day, I see clearly, and through the smoke appears Adam Copeland, also known as Edge. He does his signature pose. He does his pyro. He comes out. He goes face to face. I think that might be Vince McMahon's reaction at the moment. He goes face to face with Christian Cage, and he puts his hand out. And he says to Christian, give me the chair. Give me the chair. As if to say, I'll do it. I'll join you. We've been waiting for so long. The last time we were in the ring together was at the Royal Rumble. Back in 2021. Christian, you just made your return from a forced retirement. We're going to join together. And he pauses. He's got the chair in his hand. First of all, Sting has rolled out the way. And Nick Wayne had to say, hey, mate, put your head back where you're supposed to be. And Edge, Adam Copeland, looks out to the crowd there in Seattle. What should I do? The crowd are waiting for him. What are you going to do? You're going to join your best friend, who's a devious SOB. With everything he was doing tonight, talking to Nick Wayne's mother, nearly destroying Darby Allin at several points throughout the show as well. Starting breaking his ribs, breaking his wrist, removing the padding from the ring as well. And Adam Copeland, even though he's been the ultimate opportunist, even though he's been the rated R superstar, even though he's been everything throughout his entire career, he does the right thing and he attacks Luchasaurus and Nick Wayne with a steel chair. In fact, he's got a pair of spears. He spears Luchasaurus onto the steel chair. He spears Nick Wayne onto the boards as well. Christian Cage runs away. And now it looks like it's going to be, well, we're building to a couple of matches, clearly. We're building to a trios match, which is going to be Adam Copeland, Sting, and Darby Allin facing off against Nick Wayne, Luchasaurus, and Christian Cage. That's one match. And clearly also, we are building towards Adam Copeland versus Christian Cage in what will be Adam Copeland's retirement match. We don't know how long Adam Copeland is signed for. There is going to be a media scrum very, very shortly in Seattle. I would think, at the very least, Adam Copeland will be a part of it. If he's not, Tony Khan will get asked questions about Adam Copeland. They'll get asked about what's the situation with him, how long's he signed for, how many matches is he going to do, what's the case. For me, my theory on it is that Adam Copeland has decided, okay, before my career finishes, I want to have my final match against my best friend. That's what I want to do. So I think if you're thinking that Adam Copeland is going to come in for 2 years, I think that's probably a bit of a stretch. Is Adam Copeland going to come in maybe for a year? Possibly. Even less so. Wouldn't be surprised, realistically. Smash a like on the like button. We got over nearly 300 people watching. If you haven't already, click that like button. Be sure to subscribe as well. Bottom right hand corner. Actually, we're only 27 subscribers away from 14,300. And as you subscribe, you would have seen, as I've been talking at the start, your subscription will appear right there on the screen, actually. My hand's getting cut off, but it will appear here. And also, this thing will tick over as well. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe too. Let's see if we can get to 14,300. We can get your comments up on the screen as well. Super chats come up with funny gifs and noises as well. So we're going to get into all of the matches. We'll get into the reaction to Adam Copeland. And tell me your thoughts on it. Are you happy? Is this what AEW needs? Does it change anything to you? Is this the best move for all parties? Are you going to see, are we going to see some sort of revisionist discussions about Edge now, that he was never good? That he was never good. He was always rubbish. I don't know why AEW are doing this or whatever. Make no mistake. Obviously, Adam Copeland is not in his prime. Adam Copeland is not the Edge of 10 years ago or however many years ago. But what he is a recognizable name. What he is someone that has name recognition. And what he is a star. Look, AEW just lost a massive star in CM Punk. They did. They lost a massive star in CM Punk, and they need something. They need something to spark the show to life. Is it a long-term big thing for AEW? No, of course it's not. Adam Copeland's nearly 50 with a bad neck. But what it does do is, heading into Dynamite on Wednesday, 4th anniversary edition, is it might do what they haven't really been able to do, I think, since February this year. They might hit 1 million. And, previously, last year, that'd have been nothing. That wouldn't have been a big success for AEW. But the product's cold. The product's cold. The company is cold at the moment in comparison to where it was a year ago, frankly, 2 years ago. AEW in the summer of 2021 was a hot product and was doing 1.2 million viewers, something like that, and doing good pay-per-view numbers. Because of the controversy, because of the fights, because of the leaks, because of everything, because of the mismanagement, because of poor creative, AEW struggled over the last 18 months. Now, Edge, again, long-term is not going to fix that. But what it can do is create some buzz. What it can do is provide a bit of perception that, hey, this, people can want to come here. Basically, that's what it can do. And also, I must actually point out here. Let me get this up on the screen for you too. I can get this up for you right now, because if you were wondering about when's it going to be made official, If you're wondering when is Tony Khan going to release a statement or anything like that, has Adam Copeland officially signed? What's the latest when it comes to what he's going to be called? All that kind of stuff. Let's get this up on the screen right now. You can see it right there. Let me make that a bit there. I can put that in the middle of the screen for you. Tony Khan has just posted out the following tweet saying, welcome to the AEW team. The rated R superstar, maybe WWE owns the rated R superstar, but rated R superstar Adam Copeland is all elite. Thank you for all watching WrestleDream tonight. So there you go. Tony Khan making the news official. That's what he's going to be called in AEW as well. Some of those questions that people were having entering into the show, what would Edge be called? What music is he going to come out to? What is his character going to be to? All of that has been answered fairly quickly, and that is he is going to be known as Rated R Superstar Adam Copeland. He is still going to have You Think You Know Me. He is still going to have Metalingus by Alter Bridge. So people are going to struggle not to call him Edge. Certainly, people are going to struggle not to call him Edge. There's no doubt about that. Let's get some of your comments up on the screen. As I mentioned, we are going to go through the matches too. But let's get some of your comments up as well, because I want you guys to get involved. What some people are saying here. Azil says, actually, let's get that in front of it. It'd be good if you could actually see any of that stuff. There you go. Says, a very solid pay-per-view. Ricky Starkz and Eddie Kingston could have been on 0 hour. Maybe saying just maybe a couple too many matches, which I would kind of agree with. Beavis says, good for him. A shit ton of money and a final run with Christian. Lots of people saying they think Edge versus Christian is going to happen. Rob says, I think AEW will hit 1 million viewers now. Merson says, Copeland and FTR team up for sure. I think that would. I think that will probably happen at some point too. I mean, we know that. Again, make no mistake. Adam Copeland is coming into AEW. He will hope maybe to help boost the company and help work with some younger talent and all this kind of stuff. But it's not a long-term thing. This is, make no mistake, it's a retirement tour for Adam Copeland. And I think, realistically, he probably thought to himself, there's just a couple of extra things that I want to do before I decide to hang it up. I want to work, obviously, my retirement match, I need it to be against Christian. That's the retirement match I want to do. Christian's in AEW. He's just signed a long-term deal with AEW. He's not going anywhere. He's a top heel right now. He's arguably doing some of the best work of his career. So I want to have my retirement match against Christian. I want to work with FTR. They were the guys that helped get me back into this. They helped train me for my return back in 2019, 2020. I want to work with them. And there's matches that he hasn't done. You know, Edge versus Kenny Omega. It's a massive match for him to do. Edge versus, a Darby Allin is a massive. Edge versus Ricky Starkz. Edge versus, there's plenty of names on that AEW roster that Edge could have matches against. That it was kind of the same when he came back into WWE in 2020. He'd been gone for so long. We were salivating at Edge versus Seth Rollins, Edge versus Roman Reigns, Edge versus Finn Balor, Edge versus Damian Priest. These names that he hadn't worked with, we were excited about. And there is a pool of people in AEW that he hasn't worked with. And you say, that's exciting. So I see this as maybe, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 1-year thing, even less than that. Work some programs against people he hasn't worked before. End up facing Christian at what event? I don't know. Whether that's all in next year. Maybe they just go all the way until London. We know they're in they'll have this tour of Canada this summer. If they try and do that again, they might do that. They might say, look, we're going to do a big tour of Canada. We want you two to be involved in that, and then you can finish up there. It's ultimately what Adam Copeland wants to do. But as I said, the worst kept secret in professional wrestling is official, and that is that Adam Copeland, rated R superstar Adam Copeland, is all elite. And now the fallout comes into to Dynamite on Wednesday, and I think they'll be hoping, certainly, for a big number on Dynamite on Wednesday as well. And I think, to be honest, considering that they've been hovering around 800 to 900,000 viewers, I think with the debut of Edge, that'll probably peak just enough, I think, to get them to 1 million. Again, I think you have to manage expectations. It's not like this is going to long-term we're going to be competing with WWE now, because it's not even about that. I think this is more personal for Adam Copeland. That's what I think. I think it's about working with Christian Cage, maybe doing a couple of matches that he, against people he's excited to work with. There was nothing left for him to do in WWE at this point. Nothing. He'd come back and done everything he would have wanted to do. Work with Rollins, work with Reigns, main event of WrestleMania, which he did. WrestleMania 37. He won the Royal Rumble. Wasn't going to be world champion. Put over, again, Reigns multiple times. Worked with Randy Orton again. Worked with his wife several times on pay-per-view in front of their children. So it was really, there was nothing else left. And I think it was, as he mentioned, when he put that social media post out, he had to kind of figure out, what do I want to do? Do I want to stay in WWE when, again, I've done it all there? Do I want to retire, which I can, because I've done everything I wanted to do, or do I want to do something different with the last year or so that I've got? Do I want to work with my best friend? Do I want to face some people I've never faced before? And, as much as, and this is what I don't understand about some of the criticisms of AEW. AEW is not by any stretch of the imagination perfect. For instance, tonight, there were way too many matches on this show. It was a great show. 14 matches across a 0-hour pre-show, and this one is insane. The weekly television show. Sometimes the lack of story or the amount of tournaments and open challenges, it needs to get better. As I said, the product isn't what it was a couple of years ago. But it's clear for the benefit of pro wrestling, it's good to have an alternative that is doing well, that people can go to make money. That's the important thing. And I think Edge might also think about it as, if I want to leave, I want my legacy to be that I did it all in WWE. I came back, I worked with my best friend in my last match, and also I left pro wrestling in a better place. And there are alternatives to go to. If AEW didn't exist at the moment, Edge would have came to the end of his contract, and he probably would have stayed maybe for another year at WWE, but it would have been a course of, well, what do I do? What else do I do? There's an opportunity to do something different. There's an opportunity to do something, that people didn't expect, and have these matches that maybe wouldn't have been possible in WWE. And to me, that's a good thing. Whether you like AEW or not, or whether you think AEW's, the best, or whether you think it's terrible. And also, this is worth pointing out too, this is going to happen a lot over the next 12 months, both ways. There are a lot of contracts coming up in AEW, of people's contracts coming up in 2024 that will go to WWE. And there are people whose contracts are coming up in WWE that will go to AEW. And people that are kind of sort of suggesting, this is unprecedented. It's not. This is not unprecedented at all. If you lived through the 1990s with WWE and WCW, this happened all the time. And this will continue to happen. It's a big deal initially with Cody Rhodes and Jade Cargill going from AEW to WWE because they've been the first. But realistically as well, AEW, when they were launched in 2019, people signed 4 to 5 year contracts. So the first, or 3 years. So the first few people to jump over, it was always going to look like it was going one way because everyone was tied into AEW contracts. But as contracts come up, they'll start to go to WWE and vice versa. That's how pro wrestling works. That's how pro wrestling works, and this will continue to happen. So it's a big positive for AEW. As I mentioned, a long-term super success. Is it for AEW? No, but I think it's what AEW needs right now. It's an injection of something. It's an injection of interest. It's a positive. There's been a lot of negatives for AEW, particularly when it comes to talent. There's been a lot of negative PR and negative press for AEW over the last 12 to 18 months, certainly. And I think they needed a bit of a win. And this, would appear to be a bit of a win for them. And I think they'll take it. I'm very curious to see the reaction of people saying that Edge never achieved anything in his career. He's rubbish. He's awful. He's people celebrating the signing of Edge and all that kind of stuff. We'll wait for it, but that's indeed what will happen. So if you are just joining us again, the breaking news, Adam Copeland is All Elite. We've got nearly 400 people watching, which might be a record for a post show, by the way. So if you haven't already, click that like button. We're about 41 likes away from 100. If you haven't already, also subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Let's see if we can get this number to 14,300. That would be amazing if you haven't already. And as I mentioned, when you do subscribe, you'll pop up on the screen. If you've got super chats as well, super chats are open too. They'll pop up on the screen too with some noises and some sounds, which I never know what they're going to be, and they always make me jump. Also, channel memberships are open. If you are new to the channel too, we do daily news videos. We do one morning news video, one in the afternoon, and breaking news as well. It's very much down the middle news as well. The live streams like this are more opinionated, which we don't really do that often. It's very much give you the story, give you the facts. You make your own opinion, because I think that's what people come for with most of that kind of stuff. So yes, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and be sure to click that like button as well. Let's get some more of your reaction. And we'll take that off the screen, and then we'll go to the matches too, because again, this is a breakdown, a reaction of the show as well. What are people saying here? The Real Drop Dead Fred says this. What a film, by the way. Shout out Rick Mail. Rest in peace. This channel is new to me. I came for the news on Edge joining AEW. So again, there will be news videos coming up about that later tonight and tomorrow as well. Sharpshooter Wrestling says, I'm surprised they called him the Rated R Superstar and got to use his music. Well, when it comes to... There you go, Seductive Charm. John Cena shocked by the news as well. When it comes to the music, they're free to use that. They Alter Bridge... with Metalingus, they don't own the rights to. That's on an an Alter Bridge album back in 2004, I think, something like that. So they own the rights to. WWE don't own the rights to that. It's licensed music. They do own the rights to You Think You Know Me, which is why they had to re-record it. Radar Superstar is surprising. It seems very specific. Actually, I was doing my research early on, and I think the reason why they can say Rated R Superstar is because I believe there was a story in 2020. Here we go. In May 2020, this was the interesting one. So, in May 2020, WWE, they were doing a load of trademark filings and stuff like that. And it was, things they were filing at the time was WCW Total Divas. But in trademark news at the time, WWE actually abandoned their trademark for the term Rated R Superstar. That was on Thursday, May 21st, 2020. Now, that abandonment came after WWE originally filed to trademark the nickname used by Edge back on Sunday, April 5th, 2020, which was day 2 of WrestleMania 36, when Edge made his in-ring return. Of course, that was against Randy Orton in that closed Performance Center last man standing match. So at the time, they, for whatever reason, I guess, couldn't get it, or they abandoned it. It said in the article, again, this is from over 3 years ago, that WWE previously abandoned the Rated R Superstar trademark back on January 2014 after originally filing for it on September 17, 2012. So for whatever reason, over 3 years ago, they abandoned that trademark, so it's up. I don't know if Edge got it. I don't know if AEW got it, but that's been available for 3 years. And again, I actually... when I was doing the research for the video that went out earlier today, kind of explaining the situation when it came to what he could be called and what he couldn't be called and all that kind of stuff, I did notice that one. So that trademark's actually been available for over 3 years. So that's why he's able to use that name. Let's go through some of the matches on the show as well. As I mentioned, we will, if we get any more news as we're going on, all that kind of stuff, there will be a news video that comes out about this, because I think there has to be, really. Everyone's going to be really interested in that. But let's go through the matches on the show. As I mentioned, 14 of them. It was absolutely insane. So let's go back to the 0 hour. Started off with this match, an 8-person mixed tag team match, in which the tag team of Kojima, Keith Lee, Athena, and Billie Starkz defeated Shane Taylor Promotions, Shane Taylor, Lee Moriarty, Diamante, and Mercedes Martinez. Nothing to write home about, really. I mean, it's so far ago. I don't know if I can even remember it that well, to be honest with you. But they get the pinfall. Kojima hit the lariat to get the win. I mean, it's a pre-show match, but I don't know why it was on the pre-show realistically. Keith Lee, I think his AEW career needs to be studied. I believe he's had 2 or maybe 3 singles matches during his AEW career, but you've got his former tag team partner Swerve Strickland having arguably one of the best matches on the show tonight. Then you've got Keith Lee on the first match of the pre-show in a match that lasted under 6 minutes. Again, nothing really to write home about that with that one. This was a lot of fun. Claudio Castagnoli defeats Josh Barnett with Jon Moxley on commentary. We've got to talk about Jon Moxley on commentary because in a show that was fantastic, Jon Moxley on commentary was absolutely spectacular. I mean, spectacular. Jon Moxley was a gift. He was on commentary for this one. He was also on commentary for Wheeler Yuta's match, but it was in the Bryan Danielson, Zack Sabre Jr. match that Jon Moxley was incredible. This one between Claudio and Josh Barnett was a sort of more grappling style pro wrestling match, and it had logic. It was steeped in logic, and what I mean by that is people always say with pro wrestling, you know, a lot of it doesn't make sense. Irish whipping into the ropes, into the corners. Why would you bounce off the ropes? Why would you do that kind of stuff? This was just proper catch-style wrestling. After the match, Josh Barnett picked up Claudio and said, hey, everything that people have said about you is true, and we're not done yet. We want to do it again. So I think he's kind of planting the seeds for Barnett versus Claudio, probably a blood sport at some point in the future. Barnett was on the show because obviously he's got a New Japan background. He was a protege of Antonio Inoki. The whole thing was a tribute to Inoki. So this one was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed Moxley on commentary as well. Now, in retrospect, this one kind of looks a bit bizarre, but Luchasaurus defeated Nick Wayne in a match that lasted less than 5 minutes, and essentially, for me to describe this one, Luchasaurus just beat the shit out of Nick Wayne for 5 minutes. Realistically, that's what he did. Luchasaurus beat the hell out of him. His mother was at ringside, Nick Wayne's, as per usual. Luchasaurus, you know, kind of just beating him up. Nick Wayne got a couple of super kicks that didn't look that great. Luchasaurus sitting with a big clothesline. 1, 2, 3. That was it. That was it. that was the match. It wasn't really anything to write home about. Nick Wayne got a big ovation because he was in his hometown. But maybe you could argue that he didn't put up much of an offense because he was going to turn heel later on at the end of the show, so it was all pre-planned. Or maybe because of the beating that he got from Luchasaurus. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they plug that gap. Because they've got to explain that. People will probably forget. Given everything that happened at the end of the show, people most likely will forget, like, what? Luchasaurus faced Nick Wayne at the beginning of the show, the 0 hour, and he didn't really do anything. So they've got to kind of figure that one out. I hope they tell that part of the story. So again, nothing really to write home about when it comes to that one. And the Trios titles. Shockingly, we don't have new Trios champions. The Acclaimed retain their titles, defeating TMDK as well in a match that went just under 10 minutes. Again, not too much to write home about. The Acclaimed did their usual stuff, hit their finishes to round this one out, and really, again, these were pre-show matches. Not too much to write home about, just to get the crowd going, and the Acclaim retain their titles. Let's get into the main card, because this match opened the show, which, to be honest, didn't really progress much of anything. I was really expecting to see some kind of progression on this show when it comes to this whole Devil storyline. And actually, in retrospect, I'm glad they didn't, because it wasn't the show to do that. Because what are we all talking about coming out of this show? We're talking about Adam Copeland. We're talking about the arrival of Edge in AEW. You don't want to blow off too many stories in one night. I thought we might get some kind of teases about who the Devil was that attacked Jay White at the end of Dynamite. We didn't get that. The most we got was a promo from MJF before the match that said, someone stole my devil mask, it wasn't me. That's all we got. MJF continues to be the most over babyface in the company. He is a genius. He comes out before the match and says, I'm going to body slam you to Dutch. And then he says to Vincent, I'm going to wrap your dreads in my hands and I'm going to shove your head up his ass. And MJF The consummate babyface delivered on both. MJF, for as much of a, scumbag and despicable person he is, a lot of the time when he says he's going to do something, he does it. When he says he's going to beat you with a headlock takeover, he does it. When he says he's going to body slam you, he does it. When he says he's going to shove your head up another man's ass, he does it. And he did it. He did all that stuff. He hit his kangaroo kick. He hit the body slam. He shoved his head up the ass. He hit the heat seeker on Dutch. He put his feet on the ropes, and he won. Now, you could argue, what does that do for the righteous? Not really. But to be honest with you, it doesn't matter. Like, people were complaining about them facing the righteous anyway. Clearly, it was not the show to progress that Devil's storyline. That might come on Dynamite on Wednesday. I think if AEW was smart, I don't know when they'll reveal who the person behind the Devil Mask is. It's not MJF. It'd be very lame if it was MJF. In fact, if it was, I mentioned before, if it was MJF, it'd be very much like...
It's me, Austin!
Oh, son of a bitch!
What? It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
It wouldn't be the right thing to do. I think most people assume it's most likely Adam Cole. And the people that were involved in attacking Jay White were Roderick Strong, the Kingdom, maybe Kyle O'Reilly eventually. That makes sense. The numbers add up there. But it shouldn't be MJF. But it wasn't the show to reveal that, because why? You just shot the angle the other day. You don't need to blow it off on the pay-per-view yet. Let this one play out. So that was the right thing for them to do. But as I mentioned, it started out the show and they moved off very, very quickly when it came to that as well. Next match was for the Ring of Honor World Championship and Strong Openweight title. Eddie Kingston retains his titles against Katsuyori Shibata. Hard-hitting, obviously. It was always going to be hard-hitting with them. I still think it's remarkable that Shibata's wrestling, considering, again, what he went through just a few years ago, and now he's having harder hitting matches. He's not ever going to have the hard hitting matches he had all those years ago, and certainly he ain't going to be doing any headbutts or anything like that. Eddie Kingston gets the win in 11 minutes on the dot after a series of Hurricanes, and then gets the victory. And after the match was all about respect to Shibata. I kind of agree with what people are saying. This maybe was one of the ones where you could say, did it really, really, really need to be on the show? Again, there were matches here that could have been taken out of the show and were very much unnecessary and not needed. This was one that, okay, you could have not had the 8-person tag on the pre-show. Had Eddie Kingston and Shibata on the pre-show. I don't know if this one was totally needed, to be honest with you. Next match was for the TBS Championship, and this one I was really looking forward to, because I'm a big fan of Julia Hart. I've been really impressed with her development recently. I think she's a star in the making for AEW. She is only 21 years old. She has one of the best entrances in AEW right now. The House Always Wins is fantastic entrance, great presentation, and her in-ring work has been getting better and better and better. And I was really impressed with her matches that we saw on Dynamite, that we saw on Collision. She's got a great moonsault. The crowd really wanted her to win. They gave this match 9 minutes. I would have probably preferred to give them a bit longer, to be honest with you. Again, I look at a couple of matches on the show, say maybe you didn't need that match. You'd have given this match more time. But it's one of the better matches we've seen, women's matches, certainly in AEW, we've seen for a while. And the crowd was into it. The crowd were chanting, "This is awesome." There is something there with Julia Hart. And again, she's 21. And if you want to look at people, okay, who's marketable? Julia Hart. Who can we turn into a star? Julia Hart. Chris Statlander carried the match. Obviously, she's more of the experienced worker, and she's done a great job as TBS champion. But I looked at this match because the way that Statlander gets the win, she basically hits 2 tombstone pile drivers on her to get the win. I looked at this match as I was watching an interview that Steve Austin did with Bret Hart the other day, and they was talking about their WrestleMania 13 match, saying that Steve Austin got over by losing that match. I looked at this as Julia Hart got over by losing this match. You don't have to win matches to get over all the time. You can get over by losing. And that's what I think Julia Hart has done here, considering that she's had an undefeated streak for ages going into it. I think she got more over by losing this one, and again, I thought it was I thought it was excellent, really, really fantastic, really great match, and hopefully they invest more in Julia Hart. Next match was this 4-way tag match, and I was a bit surprised by the outcome. This one was an odd one, and I felt like maybe this wasn't going in the direction they wanted it to go in. So the Young Bucks win this. They're number 1 contenders for... Am I back? Yeah, there you go. My headphones cut out. They're the number 1 contenders for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. So clearly they're building towards the Young Bucks versus FTR once again at Full Gear. And this one got chaotic. Rey Fenix clearly has got a problem. Rey Fenix clearly is injured. Rey Fenix, by all accounts, got injured at the same spot that Jon Moxley got injured in their AEW International Championship match at the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite, whereby they did that dive to the outside of the ring. Not only did Moxley get knocked out, but Rey Fenix hurt his shoulder. Now, Rey Fenix got cleared to face Jeff Jarrett on Wednesday on Dynamite, and they had the match. He won. He retained the title. Rey Fenix maybe did a spot, 2 spots in this one, and he just said, I can't do it. He tagged out. We never saw him again. I don't know how much Rey Fenix was going to play into the match, but after that, it got a bit clunky, to be honest with you. And the finish, I think Nick Jackson was meant to do something at the finish. Didn't really work out. Matt Jackson looked a bit frustrated after the match. Nevertheless, the Young Bucks win the match. They've got another AEW World Tag Team Championship match. And I did say, whilst they were making their entrance, I thought to myself, what are the Young Bucks doing now? Because they lost against FTR at Wembley. And I said to myself, well, if they're not going to be involved in the tag team title picture, who are they going to go up against? Clearly, they're still playing out that storyline that, you know, yes, we teamed together at All Out, but we didn't shake your hands at All In, so there's animosity there, I guess. So they're doing FTR versus Young Bucks 4, which realistically means the Young Bucks are going to win. I would assume, mean the Young Bucks are going to win the AEW Tag Team title. If they lose, they should what? They've won. They've put over FTR a couple of times now, and they shouldn't be anywhere near the tag team titles after that. So for me, I think they go to Full Gear and they probably win, which I don't think is the right move, realistically, at the moment. I don't see any reason to get the belts off FTR unless they've got some injuries, which might be the case. We'll get into that for FTR's match. But the Young Bucks win that one. And then we go to one of the matches of the night. And I say one of because the show featured some fantastic matches, absolutely sensational matches. Swerve Strickland defeats Hangman Adam Page in the biggest win of his career. It was the biggest match of his career, his home state of Washington, against Hangman Page. Very quickly, very quickly, they had to switch things up. I think they anticipated that Swerve Strickland would be cheered and Hangman would be booed, but not to this extent. It was to the point where Hangman Page couldn't move without getting booed out the building. He was one of the most hated people in that arena tonight. He couldn't do anything, and the crowd wanted to see Swerve Strickland win so badly. I mean, so badly they wanted to see this guy win. Please win, Swerve Strickland. And they got it through shenanigans, it must be said. At one point, it looks like Hangman Page has got him beat. Buckshot lariat. Prince Nana puts his foot on the rope. And referee sees it, throws Prince Nana out. While this is happening, he's actually left his crown. Swerve hits Hangman with the crown. He still kicks out somehow, some way. He then hits some kicks to the head, and then eventually hits his finish, gets the 1-2-3. So they protected Hangman Page as much as humanly possible. But Swerve Strickland still beat a former AEW World Champion in a featured singles bout on a pay-per-view. That's a big deal. That's a big deal for Swerve Strickland, and I hope there's more for him. I really do. I think that he needs to be a future world champion. I think his physique, his looks got better. His promo skills are better. The presentation has got better. This is legitimizing victory for him. I don't think he's the one to take the title off MJF or anything like that, because I think it's going to be Adam Cole. But in the future, why not? Why not? To me, came across as a legitimate, bona fide star, realistically. So I'm very, very excited for Swerve Strickland's future, and I think it's like I said, it's the biggest win of his career, absolutely, and it was the right call. But they still protected the hell out of Hangman Page. It wasn't clean, must be said, in the middle of the ring, but I'll take it, and it was fantastic. The crowd loved it. It was excellent. Now was a match that was, again, this was an odd one because this didn't need to be on the show. It felt like well, Ricky's done a few jobs recently, so we've got to get him a big win on pay-per-view. It's kind of what it felt like. There wasn't a lot of need for this. Ricky Starkz defeats Wheeler Yuta. Moxley was on commentary again. I think the purpose of this one, again, I think was to give Ricky Starkz a win and also seemingly to tease a feud with Moxley. It looks like Starkz is just going to be going through the Blackpool Combat Club. He's feuded with, obviously, Danielson. He's had a match against Yuta. He's probably going to have a match at some point against Claudio. And eventually they're building to a match between Starkz and Moxley. Which realistically, Starkz should win that as well. Because I think it should be about putting the younger talent over. Which I don't think Moxley will have any problem doing. But it felt like on commentary that Moxley was just a bit indifferent to watching Starkz do this stuff. So that's what they're building towards. But again, it was a match. It went 10 minutes. It didn't feel like a pay-per-view match. It wasn't really particularly needed. I'm a fan of both. But I think even when it got announced, everyone kind of went, why? I'm not sure. I'm not sure why there was any need for that. So Starkz gets the victory there. And then we have, I think, the match of the night. Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. Bryan Danielson gets the victory at nearly 23 minutes. And it delivered. I've seen people say on social media, oh, it was all right, but I didn't really like it because it didn't have story. I think the story was pretty much built in. This was a match that they've had once before. They're considered two of the best technical wrestlers in the world. And that's the story. It didn't really need to be much more than that. I think it was the transitions, the submissions, the grappling, the story about Bryan Danielson's arm and Zack Sabre Jr. trying to utilize it. I thought the commentary for this one was sensational. They had a 4-person booth, which featured basically 2 cheerleaders for both people. So you had Zack Sabre Jr., who had Nigel McGuinness on commentary cheering everything he does because he likes the Brit and also he hates Bryan Danielson. Then you had Jon Moxley on commentary that was cheering for Bryan Danielson, but also you could see how much of a fan. You see how much of a fan Jon Moxley is of pro wrestling and of Bryan Danielson. And it was just brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Loved this match. Loved the commentary. Bryan Danielson gets the win after 2 Psycho knees. Not a ton of near falls. Just great. It's great wrestling. That's it. And I get why some people might not be their cup of tea because they might prefer other styles of wrestling. That's fine. But I thought it was excellent, and I thought absolutely it delivered, no doubt about that. And thought again it was a fantastic match. Followed this up with the trios match, and the Don Callis family wins again with Konosuke Takeshita, Sammy Guevara, and Will Ospreay defeating Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, and Kota Ibushi. This one was a lot of fun. Really good match until we got towards the finish. Then it got a bit messy and it got a bit muddled. Eventually, Don Callis gets in the ring. Well, basically, there was a point whereby the referee was kind of distracted. Will Ospreay had distracted the referee. Don Callis comes in, hits Chris Jericho with the Floyd baseball bat, and eventually that allows Jericho to pin Sammy Guevara to pin Chris Jericho. It got very muddled towards the end, to be honest with you. I think Kota Ibushi looked probably the best he's looked so far in his AEW matches. He's looked off and very rusty because of his shoulder injury that I still don't believe he's 100% from. He might never be. But it was still, at points, a bit messy. Obviously, the Omega Ospreay stuff was excellent, as you would expect. But we're clearly building towards a Jericho versus Guevara match. We are obviously building towards quite a few matches. We're going to get Omega versus Ospreay 3 at the Tokyo Dome at Wrestle Kingdom next year. We know that we're getting Jericho versus Takeshita in DDT. I think at some point we'll probably get the Golden Lovers versus Takeshita and Ospreay as well. So there's several other permutations that they're building out of this one. But it was a very, very, very good match, no doubt about that. Penultimate match was for the AEW World Tag Team titles. FTR retain against Aussie Open. This one was difficult because it was a very difficult position. There had been so many matches by this point. I think the crowd was tired. It also was snake bit by injuries in this one. We don't know an update, but it looks like Mark Davis might have broken his wrist. Cash Wheeler at some point as well. Looks like he's probably broken ribs and was in a lot of pain. FTR get the victory after a super shatter machine from the second rope onto Fletcher. And I think because of the injuries, the pacing just felt a bit off on this one. It wasn't as good as their match at Royal Quest last year. It wasn't as good as that. Maybe we'll get another match between them at some point to kind of make favor. It wasn't like it was bad, But it was, I think, the position on the show and all that kind of stuff. I just don't think it was, it maybe didn't live up to expectation. It was one of those ones again. If it didn't have so many matches on the card, you could have put it somewhere else. You could have managed it a bit better. It was still good though, but FTR retained, so they're going to face the Young Bucks. And then, as I mentioned, we go into the main event, which featured the debut of Edge, Adam Copeland, making his AEW debut. We spoke about that at the beginning, so we didn't have to go over that once again. But if you are just joining us once again, the news is that Adam Copeland has signed with All Elite Wrestling, making his debut after the main event, which saw Christian Cage retain his AEW TNT Championship. As I mentioned, we're getting quite a bit of news just sort of coming through as well. So we're going to be having a news video to kind of break that down as well. For instance, Tony Khan said that Adam Copeland will be on Collision this Saturday, plus next week on Tuesday. He's also said that Adam Copeland has signed full-time with AEW and will appear weekly. He'll also appear on Dynamite on Wednesday. Copeland said at this stage in his career, he wants to contribute and help, and AEW gives him the opportunity to do just that. So he's going to be on Dynamite on Wednesday as well. Tony has said that Adam Copeland is full-time and will wrestle regularly as well. So that's kind of some breaking news too. But we're going to break that down in a separate news video to you. So we're going to give you all of those informations as well. So again, crazy stuff, crazy evening. Appreciate everyone that's joined in. Remember, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe. And as I mentioned, news videos will be on the horizon, so stay tuned because a lot of news to get into. I'm out of it. Have a good one. Peace.